What up, my champions in training? It's Reemus here, and welcome back to Fight and Fighting, where we speak how to think like a champion. Now that I've had time to release my first book, now I'm gonna have a lot more time to post on this channel. And with that said, I just want to give a quick update. The book that came out only yesterday hit #1 in the Amazon Kindle bestsellers rankings for boxing and sports psychology. So if you haven't got it yet, make sure you get it. With that said, let's go into the first topic of the only topic of the video, which was based on an email that I got from someone asking if it's better to be homeschooled or better to actually go to a proper public school if you're trying to make it in boxing. But before that, the quote of today is by David Ambrose. If you have the will to win, you have already achieved half of your success. If you don't, you've already achieved half of your failure. So is it better to be homeschooled or is it better to actually go to public school? Well, I think there's a few factors you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about how much school or even work can be a distraction or even a help. The first things that immediately come to mind are time. How much time are you going to be able to go to the gym or spend time doing your craft? Because you need to put a tremendous amount of hours into your craft if you want to be good at it, if you want to be a master. And how much will having to go to school, having to work affect that, and how are you going to get around it? The second factor is maybe values. You have to think that for people who, the school system and the work system and everything to do with mainstream is mainly to push you to strive to be in the middle class rather than the upper class, and the values of people in the middle class are a bit more comfortable and relaxed as opposed to what it takes to really get to the top level of something, especially like in boxing. You can't really think in alignment with the goals and desires and the values of what the school system and the work system sets up for you if you want to make it as a champion. So we're just going to talk about this. It's not going to be so structured. I'm just going to ramble, but it will be along those two factors as I talk. So the first thing to think about really is, of course, when you have to go to school, it's going to be hard to get up in the morning to find time to run before, or you could have, in that time that you did go to school, you could have been in the gym, you could have been training, you could have a morning session. If your school is far, if your workplace is far, then that might actually cancel out the possibility of you getting up even earlier to go to, have a morning run like so many boxers usually do. Also, you have after school, that is, or after work, depending on what it is, it's going to be very difficult for many people to have the energy to then train later at night. With that being said, you have to think that almost everyone had some sort of struggle as they tried to make it as a champion. So it really isn't that much of an excuse. It's something to think about as an issue, but it isn't that much of an excuse. Of course, if you had the choice, if you actually did have the choice, I would recommend that it would be much easier if you didn't have to go to school or go to work and you could just concentrate on your boxing. All you would have to do is just train and progress in what it is that you want to do. If your one goal in life is to be champion, then what really is the purpose of doing any of these other things? What really is the purpose of going to school and getting a degree or getting results in something that you're never really going to use in the future anyway? Like really and truly, who cares about maths so much? I mean, it is good to be intelligent, and that's something we'll maybe speak about after, but for the most part, what's going to get you money isn't actually the same things that's going to get other people money, which is the reason why they're going to school. Your money maker are these. Your money maker is this in the ring, and maybe outside the ring too. But learning about some stuff like science and I don't know, I really don't know, but it really doesn't help you in terms of boxing. It just takes away from it. And something that I think is even more important to consider is not really the time, because you can kind of get around that. But what's much harder to control is your mind, in terms of when you're around a certain environment, and this is really important. When you're around a certain environment who have certain values, certain desire, surrounded by people who have certain desires for one particular goal, which is to graduate, get a job, this type of job. If you're around that, you're gonna soak that up to some degree. It's just inevitable. People say you are the sum of your 5 closest friends, and of course that means you're the sum of the environment you're in. So if you're in an environment of people who aren't trying to maybe push you towards your goals, they're out of alignment in terms of what you want to achieve. So really, it would be much better for you to be in an environment where people share the same type of values that you have. Let's take an example, right? If you were to ask someone who is a friend who has different desires and values that you have, if you were to ask them about how to make it in boxing, or what you should do in terms of making it and dedicating and investing time into boxing, a lot of people who are in that school and work mentality will tell you that it's much better for you to have a plan B. But I've read countless books on boxing greats, and I can tell you, no great really put any importance on a plan B, because the moment you put too much importance on a plan B, I'm not saying you can't have something that maybe helps it, but if you have a plan B, that's obviously going to take away a lot of energy from your craft. If you engage in the activities or something else, that's going to take away a lot of time from you being able to progress in your craft. So really, if you want to go into boxing, you have to go into it full. Like, you have to be dedicated and decisive in saying that I'm going to go for boxing, I'm going to go for the championship, and that's my one goal in life. And if I don't achieve it, I'm very upset. Now, the reason why is because on the other side of the world, maybe on the other side of the country, maybe in your own gym, there's a guy who isn't going to talk about plan B. He isn't going to look at a backup plan in case things go wrong. He's going to fully put his energies into making sure that boxing works and nothing. There's no other option. There's no option of failure in this. There's no option of getting into something else as the primary. No, he has to make it in boxing. And to come up against a guy like that, when you haven't invested your all into boxing, is a little bit scary to me. So it's better that you make sure that you're that type of person who, when the opponent looks you in the eye, he's tremendously intimidated, because he knows that you've dedicated and invested all of your time into this boxing. And he will sense that you are more invested into this than him. To be around a certain condition might actually give you more motivation to say, this isn't something that I want to do, because you're in it and you're drawing on that place of pain and frustration, I guess, from being in an environment or being in a setting or being in a place in life where you don't actually want to be. And using that pain or that frustration or that fear of saying that this is not something I want to do in the long term will push you to go to the gym, will push you further to go the extra mile, will push you to go one more round, because you know that the stakes are too high. You don't want to go, you don't want to feel that feeling of pain, frustration, and guilt if you actually fail in the task of trying to become a champion. So for some people, and this is a good way to reframe the situation, if you are in a situation, and that will be most of us, like myself, I was in school and really I was thinking to myself, even I went to university, I got a degree, and I was thinking to myself, for the most part, this isn't my university. My university is the boxing gym. If I get, like, me winning the championship in boxing is my equivalent of a degree. That's me graduating. So for you, it might be the same thing. But no matter what circumstance you are in, you always have to remember there's always a way. There's always a way to turn it into your favor. You should never accept the circumstances as being bigger than you. Rather, what you want to do is make the environment work for you no matter what circumstance you're in. So if you are getting homeschooled, if you're not in school, or in work, if you do find yourself having to put in many hours in work and it's not something that you want to do and it's something that you're thinking about, there's ways to make that work for you. And as I've said in previous videos, there's always time, really. You can fit things into your schedule somehow. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into this topic and ramble too much. So it's just a quick splash of my thoughts on this topic, and I hoped it helped you. So if it did, make sure you subscribe and check out the next video because there's a lot more to come. Yeah, that's me out.